'81. So yeah, early.
Nice. We also get to see Kitty Pryde, and this time, like I mentioned before, she got de-aged. She looked like she was like 15, 16, 17 in the first film, and then she was made to be like a younger girl, maybe 13, 14, if that, and then again kind of, stuck with that when she was played by Elliot Page in the third film.
Yeah, it was weird to me that they went with a different actor. I'm wondering like what happened with I mean, maybe the first actress was like, I'm unavailable, or I wouldn't have turned down a role in an
And
extra movie,
sometimes
but
and
I don't know if they're
her
just
hair
hey.
got longer and everything.
It was weird that in the three movies, Kitty Pryde was played by three different actors, which
Mhm,
again, whatever. I don't know the behind the scenes tea on that, but
mhm.
it just seemed weird. I was like, oh, okay, I guess, cool.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I out of the four times that I've watched that out of the last um the last couple of weeks, I really it's kind of blink and you miss it because I apparently blinked at the wrong time all four movies because I just can't see her.
well, that's her job. She goes through walls. So I mean,
Yeah,
um, so question for Michelle. With you being familiar with the comics, this Colossus, I know like in the movie he has his human form and then he changes into that metal looking man. Is that something from the comics?
yep. That is classic. That's the first thing he did. He was um, introduced by in Claremont when Chris Claremont took over the doing the X-Men. He was one of the first characters introduced, along with Nightcrawler and um, Thunderbird and a few others at the same time. But
Nice.
yeah, in fact, in the comics, he also adds about a foot and 2 inches to his height. But
Nice.
they decided not go with that. But yeah, he changes into metal. Been described differently from one time to another. I think the most recent one I know is just kind of infuses his body with osmium, which is
Nice.
the densest metal we know of.
And I know Michelle, you were saying that you wish he had more of a screen time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish any of like the X kids got a little bit more screen time. Like, I think we get a mention of Jubilee. Like, her name gets dropped in all the films, but we don't get to actually like see her do anything until oh, I don't know, what is it? It's like Dark Phoenix or something. Like,
Nice. They're just
I think that they had a lot of missed opportunity. Like even Kitty, like we didn't get to see Kitty until the third movie. You know.
like all these well-known characters. Throughout all the X-Men movies, you got these B-list characters who are, are seen a lot in like other source material, but when they come onto the big screen, it's like, oh, we're just showing them because for the fans. That's all. Like, you're gonna see them like for a few scenes, a few lines, and that's it. Like, bye.
I even think that like they're doing it for the fans because like those little tidbits are so sad. We could have had a lot more. And it's like Amanda said, I mean, they had all these characters to pull from, and here they are just making up characters or like combining powers
The
on
kid with the
them.
forked
And I think
tongue,
that
the kid who blinks to turn
yeah,
on the
like that's not
TV.
Artie.
It's like, God, I wish I could
Yeah.
just blink and turn on the TV. um,
Yeah,
so
Artie, by the way, has been identified. I'm not sure by whom as related to Artie Maddox, who was a character in the X-Men comics, but the two characters are actually not alike at all. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there.
I think they literally just pulled it for, again, nerds like us, name recognition, only for us to be mad that I'm like, but that's not Artie Maddox, so just don't even use his name. Just call him Bob. You know what I mean? Call him Joe. Call him John. Like, whatever. Like at that point, like if you're not gonna use the name, then don't. I don't know.
So this was something that was retconned after this film came out. It was mentioned. I want to say Apocalypse. It kind of bugged me after seeing it in the animated series and hearing about it in the comics. The scene with Raven, Mystique, and Nightcrawler, I was kind of like, I didn't realize it until like after hearing about it, like their mother and son, yet it's not acknowledged or said or anything. They're just like random, like their conversation in this, like, how I was saying, so you can change any to one, even the voice, and like, and she says, even's the voice.
They say you can imitate anybody, even their voice. Even their voice. Then why not stay in disguise all the time? Look like everyone else.
Because we shouldn't have to.
And I was just like, okay. And then when I found out they were mother and son, it's like, oh, that's cool. And I know it doesn't get acknowledged that they're, mother and son until X-Men Apocalypse, when you find out that her and Azazel, or however the hell you pronounce his name, had him in conceived. Because I know.
I mean, was that confirmed in the movies? Because I don't think that was.
I know like I know like in the Apocalypse, I think it's like, or the days, I don't know. I just know.
So I mean, Azazel was in First Class, and was shown to be dead in Days of Future Past. But there was nothing that confirmed that Nightcrawler was the son of Azazel and Mystique like he was in the comics. I think that's just like fans wishing that to be true. But it wasn't. And I mean, I was kind of fine with it, because again, it's a movie, it's a different universe. We don't need to have everything from the comics. It's fine. Because it wouldn't have made sense, because like even when Mystique was first introduced in the comics as an X-Men villain, like hints were immediately dropped that there was some connection with Nightcrawler and Mystique. And in my opinion, if that's what they were going to do for the movies,
they would have done it.
They should have just done it. The fact that they didn't means that they didn't want to acknowledge it. And honestly, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, makes sense. Now another scene I want to talk about. It's later on after, Bobby goes to his home, talks to his parents, and his brother's just like, oh my god, who are these people? Why are they here? Call the cops. The scene with Pyro, starting with Irene, what did you think of that scene when Pyro basically says, all those dangerous mutants you hear on the television? Well, I'm the worst one.
You know all those dangerous mutants you hear about on the news? I'm the worst one.
What were your thoughts on that scene when he starts basically almost wanted to kill the cops and everything?
The traditional rebellion of when you are being so suppressed and kind of stripped away of your identity, that when you continually be stepped on, you just explode. And for him, he wants to put everything on fire, which seems very classic of somebody who's in that situation, which makes sense.
Teenager in a sense.
For a teenager, but also a teenager with powers and a government that wants to like take you away or tell you that like you're weird and put you down and basically say you're not special, so taking away his identity. And this is him standing up for himself in a much more extreme fashion, but to stand up for himself and put his foot down, put everything in flames. So.
Literally. Again, thank you for being here, for also looking at this at a student counselor point of view as well.
Yeah, no problem.
I'd like to look at that scene, but first I'd like to back up about 3 minutes in the movie to the dumbest line in the entire film. Have you tried not being a mutant?
What his mother says.
So, okay, I'm gonna stop you right there, Bob. I'm gonna stop you right there. So Bryan Singer, for all of his faults, because he's not a good person,
I think that's
really
been established.
Really kind of leaned into the mutant as an LGBTQ metaphor, and literally that line has been said to so many LGBTQ plus people that to you it may be dumb, but to us it resonated a lot, because for a lot of us, having your parent look at you and be like, well, have you tried not doing that?
I've heard
So
that line.
for
I've heard
me,
that many
like
times
that
before.
line actually resonated a lot. Like that whole scene was very real, especially because I had literally just come out to my parents before that movie came out and was also very much had that same sort of reaction and family dynamic going on. So yeah, like no,
that also happens to be, that also is the dynamic of a lot of parents with autistic kids like me.
sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely. I can.
And to, you know, to try to just be, you know, just be sociable, just be, you know, just be,
Yeah.
you know, use your sense or whatever. And
Yeah. Again, just be
it's
normal.
dumb. It's still a dumb thing to say.
So no, it's not dumb.
this,
it's real because parents say that to their children all of the time.
although
So
in
it's not
this case,
dumb,
it's like,
it's real.
in this case, it's a little like saying, have you tried not being black?
Well, yes, of
That's
course.
the thing. Like it happens. Like people will say these things because they think there's something inherently wrong.
I'm not blaming Brian or the writers. I'm blaming Mrs. Drake as to saying the dumbest thing in the film.
Oh. Yes, I agree. That is a very ignorant thing to say, but unfortunately, it's something that is a lot of people's realities.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's even dumber to say to somebody based on their genetics, even worse than it is on you know, Queer Nation or Autism Spectrum.
Yeah, I remember that scene where like she's blaming herself, like, and then I remember Pyro saying it comes more from the dad.
So it's his fault. Yeah.
Also, I want to talk about with Michelle. What do you think? How we got more of Iceman's backstory in this sense? So we got to see what his family was like before he got sent off to the school.
I think it was nice. You could definitely tell that he didn't tell his parents, you know, what he was, and he was a little hesitant to bring like the gang back to his house because, you know, I think he knew how they would kind of react, like they would react the way that they did. And and then even like his brother, you know, calling the police on them, I think it was a little sad.
He put his parents in harm's way too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, in the movies, Iceman's parents come from privilege, so they are used to feeling safe. And if they don't feel safe, the like first reaction is to like call the police or like, oh my God, someone's in my house.
Yeah, they basically sent like a whole army.
Yeah, well, I mean, they sent the army.
It was the brother's fault.
Oh yeah, the brother. I feel like the brother did kind of a little overreact. Like I don't know really what else happened in that scene. I just remember the brother like getting all upset and everything. He
got really kind of sneery and snotty on his face and got upset after Bobby demonstrated his powers. Then he went upstairs and made the call to the police. His parents were just going to sit and try to at least have a dialogue.
So this was another thing that I felt is missed with cutting it front, because this was another thing in the novelization, which I think takes a little bit of a like nod to what happened in I can't remember the exact issues, but there's an issue in the Guthrie family, Cannonball, Husk, all of them, where they have a sister named Joelle who is not a mutant, and all of like the mutant children, and she gets wrapped up in an anti-mutant like cult group, whatever. So in the novel, when you go up to the brother's room and he goes to make the call, it says all over his desk and stuff are all these flyers from all of these anti-mutant groups and organizations.
I didn't see that in the movie.
Well, no, it's not in the movie.
Oh,
it's in the
novelization. Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Again, it's one of those little things that I feel like even if it's just sitting on the desk and like we don't even need to zoom into it, it's kind of like it just kind of gives you like a little bit of like why, why he, again, because like you guys were just talking, we don't know why he freaks out that hard, and it's because he drank the Kool-Aid of these anti-mutant groups and is like, oh no, but there's mutants in my house. I need to call the police to get them out.
Yeah, I also feel like there's also a part of insecurity of being very different. He can't defend himself, and this is a way that he can show dominance or power, because if he doesn't have any type of powers to protect himself, and he belongs to the philosophy that mutants are terrible and they should all be annihilated or whatever, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with his brother. That's why his relationship with him and his sibling are just like non-existent. To him, that's not his brother. So to him, he has no hard feelings about calling the police to have him being taken away, because I guess it makes him feel like he's part of a normal family because that brother is not part of it.
From what I got from that scene, and this, people can, comment and say, and I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel like his brother in a way was jealous. Knowing the scene that his brother has this cool ability, yet he's, I don't know if that's what.
Yeah, insecurity, jealousy, a lot of those emotions intertwine with one another. It's not usually, people are very complex. So having all those kind of mixed up feelings can make somebody feel very unsettled and latching on to this elite ideology that mutants are terrible. If you find a mutant, be sure to let us know so that we can get rid of them. It makes you feel at least stable to have some type of control.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I just don't think when he was calling the police, I don't think he realized, he put his parents in harm's way too. I know that seems like there's some people in our house and they won't leave. I don't know.
Let us leave. He said.
Oh yeah, they won't let us leave. Yeah, no. Definitely, and definitely an impactful scene when Pyro starts, doing that whole, his whole fire thing and just starts blowing up all the cars and everything, and Wolverine gets shot in the forehead, and Rogue basically, I think that's the only time we actually get to see Rogue use her powers, because I know in the first one we saw her use it more than once on accident, like twice on accident, I think. When she kisses her boyfriend, and then when she has to heal herself after Wolverine literally stabbed her in the chest because he freaked out, and then we only see her.
But most of the time in fact, in any of the movies that she has appeared, she's only ever been like coincidentally using her powers. Like, this is the first time she's ever used her powers offensively in I can actually do something.
Like, let me just take my glove off and just grab him by the ankle and just.
Yeah. It's the first time she actually exerts agency of, I can actually do something right now. Cool.
Nice. So there are some subtle nods. I was talking to Bob about this before we started. There are some little subtle Easter eggs in the X-Men film. The first one is at the bar scene, where Magneto's orderly is sitting at the table telling that guy to turn off the TV, and if you look at the caption on the news thing, it says Hank McCoy,
and Sebastian Shaw. They're on a talk debate show. It's Sebastian Shaw and
the guy who created the Signal program.
No, Sebastian Shaw was in the comics the leader of the Hellfire Club.
So, and then later in X-Men Origins, you find out is, in my opinion, Mr. Sinister. But they made him Sebastian Shaw, but played by Kevin Bacon. But yeah, because Beast was always meant to be in the movies, but they didn't either have the technology or know how to design or whatever. So they wanted to just sort of throw this Easter egg. So he's played by a guy, Hank McCoy is played by a guy, I think his name was Steve Basic. Yeah.
He was in the middle of a run as a recurring actor on Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda at that time. He was he had just gone through the second season. I have him marked in here as one of the people I wanted to discuss. One of the little actors. He did, a couple things on Smallville. He had done something else significant recently. I can't remember what it is. I'll jump in and say it if you. No, I don't see it. I don't see it. Sorry, I'm going to close this page.
But yeah, so that was just a little see, look, there's other people. So he is also along with some other people, some other mutants that are then re-looked at when we get to the Dark Cerebro stuff. In the when Charles is attacking mutants. So there's a scene with Beast, which is in the novel turns him blue, like being attacked by Dark Cerebro is the thing that like is the catalyst that makes him go blue and furry. Betsy Braddock is seen at a cafe waiting to be, a fashion model because that's what she was. Who then she actually gets like a premonition.
See, Irene she knows who you're talking about.
Yes, girl. Yes,
I'm trying to place it.
But yeah, she so she gets like the premonition that something bad is happening, and then something bad happens. And then the other one is Gambit that was supposed to be in that scene, and he is playing poker and makes shit explode.
Yeah.
Which would have been cool, but
I mean, yeah,
instead we got weird stuff later.
Yeah. During the scene when Mystique is, she makes herself look like Lady Deathstrike, and she's going into, to find out where Charles Xavier is being held in that glass prison. One of the names of the mutants that's on that computer is Remy LeBeau, which is Gambit. Which I didn't. Again, when I saw this a while back, when I was planning on want to do this series, I was like, "Oh, hey, it's Gambit!" Like a nice little name drop. I don't know what the other names that she was looking at, but I saw Remy LeBeau.
So there's a whole list, and yes, I was that person when the DVD came out that I sat in front of my TV and I paused and I read through all of the names. I think there's now a list on Wikipedia of all the names, but a lot. So there, like Sunfire is listed. The Guthrie,
I saw Roberto da Costa.
No, not Roberto da Costa. Sunfire. Shiro.
Right.
I can't remember what his last name is right now. But the Guthries, the Maximoffs are listed. There's another family. Danny Moonstar is on that list. I believe the Braddocks are on that list. There's Lila Cheney, I believe, is listed in there. Allison Blair. And then on the other computer screen, on the little file folders, there's Cerebro, Franklin Richards, Omega Red, the Sentinel program. Oh, it's Project Wide Awake, not which is the Sentinel program. And I think one other thing, but yeah, that whole like computer screen, like for me, I was like, I need to get this on DVD so I can pause it and find out who all the people are that they listed. There are so many, like, again, for me, I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And also a bunch of the characters that we already knew, like Aurora Monroe was listed on there, Scott Summers, Jean Grey, who we obviously already know is who they already knew is a person. Which also, by the way, I don't know if we talked about this the last time. Again, as a giant nerd who does nothing but do this stuff. But in the novelization of the first movie, during the Senate scene where Jean is talking to Senator Kelly, she is supposed to get flustered and actually throws papers in the air with her mind, which outs her to all of the people in the Senate. Which again would have been cool. I'm glad that they didn't, because like that probably could would have been a problem to the plot later.
Would have proved Senator Kelly's point.
Yeah. But anyway, that scene is another one that had a bunch of and also in the school scene, there's a couple of people in the background. Like that was I think that's the movie that you see the triplets, the Stepford Cuckoos, walking around in the background. There's more, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, there's a which again makes me so frustrated that they make these two characters that they give screen time to and like a minor character arc to that they created for the movie when there's so many other characters they could have used.
Yeah. Back to you, Michelle. What were your thoughts on the whole mind control thing that William Stryker was using on Deathstrike, Magneto, and Nightcrawler? Was that everything in the comics?
I don't think so. I mean, Magneto's like, he's a boss. I mean, like it's not going to take a couple drips of like some brain syrup to control Magneto, I feel. Like I think that that wasn't a reflection of his character. Like I don't think that was portrayed very well. Lady Deathstrike also, like she's a badass bitch. I don't know how he caught her and was able to mind control her. Uh Cyclops, well, you know, maybe. Maybe.
Actually,
But
Cyclops
I
is the one
mean,
I would have expected to be more resistance because he's in the X Mansion training with Professor Xavier. Magneto's been relying on his helmet to stop mind control, and I don't know about Deathstrike, but I don't think she'd have much training in that area.
And then
That's just logic.
Nightcrawler, he was, you know, a lot in his mind, he was a lost soul. So, you know, I know it's not really mentioned how, you know, he said he was like a dream and everything, how he's being mind controlled in Stryker's facility and everything. I just remember like seeing the
well,
scenes.
I
Wait, who said that? Was it you, Irene, or Michelle? I don't
uh,
I don't know. I thought someone
I
said something.
well, I was just gonna say, I think that was like the missed opportunity where, you know, they could have tied the whole religious thing into it, and maybe like through some kind of like, you know, maybe Stryker like recruited Nightcrawler into his like religious cult and is like, hey, come work for me, like come like do some dirty work for me, rather than the whole mind control thing. Like it
Mhm.
could have been more of a like religious type of control, I guess.
So, two things. Number one, in the comic prequel for Nightcrawler that is supposed to take place right before, it's sort of like the Rogue One, if you will, for Star Wars fans, like leading right up into Nightcrawler going into the White House. Nightcrawler was just working in a circus and was kidnapped. That's how he got working for Stryker. But it would have been better, like what Michelle was saying, because that is another storyline which is was also terrible, but adapted well, of Nightcrawler becoming a priest in the early 2000s, only to find out that the priests that, or the people that he was working with, were, oh my gosh, an anti-mutant religious cult. Who knew? It's like, really, Nightcrawler, really? But yeah, but again, like what Michelle was saying, like that, I think would have made a little bit more sense of how, like, that could have been like a cool thing to like tie that in. But you know, we got what we got.
True. I mean, yeah. So back to Irene, since I know you're a fan of the whole action and everything, what did you think of the whole Lady Deathstrike Wolverine fight in the adamantium room?
I mean, I thought, you know, she's a badass. She's really tough. There was a lot of really cool action sequences, but, you know, just like everyone has, I think, pretty unanimously stated, her death of being, you know, pumped with the adamantium it's pretty heartbreaking. So
Stabbed right? Do you think she got stabbed right in the back with that giant adamantium needle? I think it was.
Yeah. So I think, to me, like, that was just I mean, I understand she's a bad guy. You know, there needs to be some type of ending so that they can finish a storyline and leave the facility. But I guess it's complicated, right? Because she was mind controlled, and I wouldn't say that she wanted to be a part of this fight because she's under mind control. So I think, to me, like, I did appreciate the different actions that happened in that scene, but how it ended was just left a hole in my heart.
Yeah, no, I know, because in the last podcast we really didn't talk about the choreographed scenes. I think honestly that scene was I loved Wolverine's reaction when Lady Deathstrike basically showed all her claws, and he's like, "Oh shit."
That, I believe, is an exact quote.
I think I'm gonna have to.
The fight would have meant more if there was like more of the backstory. Like, I don't think they needed to have Lady Deathstrike be mind controlled. She was part of the Weapon X program.
Oh yeah, the X-Force.
So yeah, she could have just been there and she could know all this stuff about Wolverine and be like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, we battled before. And he could be like, what are you talking about? And she could just be like, we have stuff to finish. And then that fight would have been that much more interesting, I think, rather than just her being mind controlled to fight him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, her being used as a weapon versus her initiating that fight and then having her death be like a result of like her own action. However, because somebody else is pulling the strings, you just don't feel satisfied, or at least I didn't feel satisfied.
A female character having agency in a superhero film,
What?
groundbreaking. So speaking of Easter eggs, in the background of the adamantium thing, there were actual production designs because they were originally going to have Archangel be in this movie. So there is like an X-ray of the adamantium wings that they were originally planning to do for Archangel back there.
We're gonna see that till Apocalypse.
And I believe Sabretooth's claws and Wolverine's claws. So it's like all the X-rays are in that room, which was pretty cool. That was another. Also on the DVD and the special features, like you can like scroll through all of those like production stills, as well as, just since we're talking about this, there's also originally there was supposed to be a danger room sequence in the movie,
which was in until 3.
And so like all of the designs for that are on the DVD. I like kind of what Michelle was saying, like it really was kind of a missed opportunity to make her more of a complete character instead of just a weapon. But it is one of the best fight scenes in the X-Men movies, I think. Like it's such a cool,
well choreographed
fight. Well, it's hard to not have an excellent fight. It's hard to not have an excellent fight scene when Kelly Hu is involved.
True.
Agree.
Again, I think
so like gracefully and also powerfully. So I think for me watching, I'm just thinking, wow, like I'm kind of rooting for her, even though she's the bad guy. But like Michelle said, if she was a complete bad guy with the intention of wanting to kill him because that's her own prerogative, her death would have been much more fulfilling. But because
I prefer the alternative that we discussed earlier of just letting her kind of come to her senses, like as Scott did, and switch sides.
Yeah, or just not how it ended right now. Like other alternate endings of her either like coming to terms and sacrificing herself or becoming, who is she meant to be, right?
Kelly, if you're watching this, you got robbed.
I will point out with the one scene when the adamantium from her body's being drained, her eyes turn back to normal. Because I know, like throughout the movie, I mean, she wears glasses, but when she takes her glasses off, they're like silver. Is that part of the adamantium, or what is?
No, the silver thing is to show that they're being controlled by the brain.
Okay.
As Michelle called it, which I laughed very hard on mute, the brain syrup.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, because I remember like when like you see it on Lady Deathstrike.
So you see the Nightcrawler in that first scene. You see it in Magneto.
You see that spot.
Yeah,
on the neck.
So the spot, but like you can even see it in Magneto's eyes in the prison scene when he gets him to reveal where where Charles is.
Speaking of the prison scene, what did you think the whole Magneto's anyone can answer this? What do you think of Magneto's prison escape scene when he takes all those iron out of his orderly?
There it is. Too much iron in your blood.
And he's on that metal round disc.
That was badass. Go for it.
Three little balls. Yeah.
I loved it. It's one of those like comic book physics where it's like, this doesn't make any goddamn sense, but sure, I'll believe it. Like I'm down. Jeez. It was because they already made that guy out to be like such a dick, and again in the novelization, like they got to fill him out more as like such like an abusive orderly like prison guard, that scene you felt, yes, absolutely, Magneto, rip him in half, like let's go.
And that scene was kind of, and even though there wasn't much, you were able to see blood, or
Mhm.
was, which is like for PG-13. I know PG-13 movies can only allow you only like blood once or twice a scene, and also the F word
Yes.
once in a scene.
So I again, I think it was also, if you think about it this way, for the rating system, Magneto is still a villain, and so him killing someone, oh, he's the bad guy. Whereas they cut out the blood in the mansion scene because Wolverine is a good guy. So Wolverine can't be killing people if he's just harming them real bad. It's okay.
Oh man.
Seriously injuring.
Yes.
So we got like probably a few minutes here before we end this.
So I just wanted to say, so like one of like my final thoughts to, I guess, just sort of like think another like weird thing was they filmed it and they put this ending in the novelization, and you can kind of see a little bit that they might have used one of the takes from it in some of the later scenes with Jean Grey. So in her fight with Cyclops, she actually gets a broken leg and is blinded at the end of the movie. And then they escaped the thing, and so she's at the White House in the last scene, but she's blind. So if you look closely in the scene where Jean, especially where like they're trying to find Xavier, like find the Dark Cerebro.
Mhm.
If you look at Famke Janssen's face, you can kind of tell that she's trying to do that like actor I'm blind look, where she's kind of not looking at anything in the scene. And then there's also a production shot that I remember seeing in, I want to say, Entertainment Weekly. I was really big into Entertainment Weekly in the early 2000s. But there's a production shot of the characters in their X-Men uniforms in the White House, and it includes Famke in it, which obviously then they filmed it without her to kind of hide the ending. But I remember reading the novel being like, because I'm a person that I don't mind spoilers. Like spoilers aren't that big a deal to me. That's whatever. So like when I read it, I was like, that's a really weird ending. Like why is this ending this way? Like there was like it felt like there was like no like big payoff. So then when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, they didn't want to spoil the movie. I get it. Okay.
Nice. Michelle, back to you. Dark Cerebro, what were your thoughts on that? And was that a thing in the comics, or was that something added in the movie?
Okay, that's not my area of expertise. But
so it was not Dark Cerebro, but there was a thing. It's the plot of God Loves Men Kills, where Stryker does use this device to try to get mutants to die. That the X-Men then thwart his plans. So it is kind of a thing, but it was not exactly the same thing that they did in this movie.
Gotcha. Again, back to Michelle. What were your thoughts on that scene though? When Stryker was telling Jason to tell the whole Dark Cerebro scene. What was your thoughts on that scene altogether when they copied Cerebro and everything?
It was just kind of weird to me. I mean, I can't say I have any thoughts on it, to be honest. Sorry.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. Irene, same question. What were your thoughts on the whole Dark Cerebro scene?
Do you mean when he's trying to connect with all the mutants?
Yeah, yeah, that.
I mean, it was part of the plot, I guess. Like, like Michelle, like it was just part of the story, so I just followed it.
True. I mean, I really can't say much because I'm not familiar with as much old lore like Bob and Amanda here.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with this part of the lore myself, but I found the scene mostly pretty impressive, largely because of the acting that was involved by that was there with by all parties involved. Alan Cumming, Halle Berry, Patrick Stewart, um, um, Michael Reed McKay, Keely Purvis, in fact, was really outstanding. I have her IMDb page brought up, and she's hardly done anything else. But watching her in this movie really put me in mind of Millie Bobby Brown, and she was just of that par. So it kind of a loss to not have her having done anything for I think a decade now.
Nice. All right, so 2 more scenes before we all decide if this movie was worth making. I'll start. Oh wait, go ahead, Bob.
I did have a question that somebody maybe answer. One thing that's confused me every time I watch this is Magneto rearranging the tiles in the dark.
I was just
in
about
the
to bring
Dark
that
Reader
up too.
room.
Thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up.
I don't know. I didn't get that.
That's what I like to call just drink for trying to make sense. Like it doesn't, it's not a thing. It's just, so somehow, because we find out that Magneto helped build Cerebro, right?
Mhm.
So if you look at, again, this is just all my fan theory. I do not work for Fox. I do not speak for the company. But like again, like deducing, if Magneto helped create Dark Cerebro, and when you or the original Cerebro, so if you look at the way that it is made, the Dark Cerebro, and like the tiles are not all there and they're all in certain places.
Mhm.
Obviously Magneto like did some science and found the way to like switch it so it attacked humans instead, when instead it could have just been tell Xavier to focus on humans. I don't know why that needed to happen. It was probably, hey, this would look cool and make it look like Magneto's doing something. But at the end of the day, take a drink and go, cool, that happened.
That was a waste of CGI.
So last 2 scenes, again, like I said before we conclude if this was worth making, I will start with Michelle. What were your thoughts on Wolverine getting closure, and what were your thoughts on Jean's death scene, well, quote unquote death scene, when she was saving everyone from that, basically the dam collapsing?
Well, I don't feel like Wolverine actually got his closure. I think he has more questions now. I think he has a general like idea of how to pursue some of those answers, but I don't think he feels like he got the answers that he was looking for. The scenes with Jean Grey, I mean, like I knew what she was gonna do. Like, of course she's gonna sacrifice herself. Like that's typical Jean. She's like, hey, I got this. Like I'm gonna die, but I got it. I didn't know that they were like initially when I first watched this when I was much younger, I didn't know that they were gonna make this like her Phoenix resurrection thing until the end scene. Well, I mean, they hinted at it like with the fire in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, when you see like the Phoenix under the water, I remember being like, oh my God, like she's gonna be the
Oh, that's
Phoenix.
right. The ending scene. The ending
Yeah,
ending scene.
oh dang, like she's not really dead. That was probably like the best part of the movie for me.
I'm not dead yet.
No, I mean, I think it was very impactful when she basically, reached into Charles' mind to talk to Scott through Charles. I think that was the most impactful scene, and I think James Marsden, I think he did a wonderful job at feeling, sad and angry about losing Jean. He's a one hell of an actor, and I know we talked about that in the previous one.
Know what I'm doing? This is
It's the only way.
Jean, listen to me. Don't do this.
goodbye. Oh, no, no.
Demanda, thoughts on Wolverine's quote unquote closure with Stryker and Jean's quote unquote death scene?
I I mean, for Wolverine, it's like we know that whatever we're gonna do in the next movie, it's gonna be Wolverine focused. So like it's like you know that that's gonna be kind of the way they go anyway. And instead, we got Wolverine Origins, which we don't talk about.
Deadpool.
But like it was fine. I like the fact that they did have him choose to like go to the school and save the kids and be with the X-Men over his own personal like finding of about like what he had been looking for. I liked that aspect of it. Fine. But I'm literally the same thing that Michelle said with the whole Jean thing. So like obviously I could tell that, oh, we're doing like Phoenix stuff. Okay, cool. Like yes, like give me more of that. Again, as someone who likes Phoenix a lot, I made my niece dress up as Rachel for Halloween.
Aww.
And I have a giant Phoenix tattoo on my arm. I was super excited. When she died, again, I went to go see the movie with a college friend who was also a huge X-Men fan, and we were like, oh my god, she is on fire. This is awesome. And then at the end of the movie, when she does the Charles opening speech.
Mutation. It is the key to our evolution. It is how we have evolved from a single-celled organism into the dominant species on the planet. This process is slow, normally taking thousands and thousands of years. But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward.
When then you see the fire in like the Phoenix in the water, I was like, give me the next movie immediately. And then we got X3. But we'll talk about that next time.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I at the time I was so excited. I was so excited at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah. I'll be asking one more question, two more questions actually after this one. Irene, what are your thoughts on Wolverine's closure scene with William Stryker when he he basically takes off his dog tags and throws it and basically tell him to F you, and then what did you also think of Jean's quote unquote sacrifice scene?
So I think with Wolverine, he's not going to be able to find the answers that he wants, but I think he knows that what he values more is that the family that has accepted him is all the answer he really needs at this point. So trying to figure out all the trauma or how he became who he is no longer a priority, but instead moving forward with what I currently have and to continue to grow upon it. So I think that's not necessarily closure, but I think he's refocused his priorities so he knows what's more important. As for Jean Grey's death, obviously with all the characters like not wanting her to like sacrifice herself, in that moment I felt more like, okay, I understand this is like a dire situation, there must be another way. However, knowing Jean Grey's personality of knowing that she has the potential to help everyone at the price of herself. So but like Michelle said, like, okay, it's not quite over yet, and that's why I'm like super excited about like the next movie, because that ending really captured it in a way that kind of built it so that like you have to see part 2 versus it's not really an end.
So. Again, now Bob, thoughts on Wolverine's closure with William Stryker and thoughts on Jean's sacrifice scene.
Well, in one way on that one, I'm a little bit with Magneto as far as what to do with Stryker. It's just basically just staple him to a concrete wall and wait for the dam to break. Wolvie kind of was, yeah, I'm leaving you there. I don't think freeing him would be worth fighting the information or escaping with him. I think taking him in as a prisoner might be something, but whether he'd actually face justice for what he'd done is a big question, especially given what they knew at that time. The little visit to the White House later on might have changed that, but at that point, I don't know that anything else would have been done. And Artie really kind of gave him the gesture that I like. Usually, usually when you want to give somebody a gesture of contempt in the movies, it's using a finger.
He used his tongue.
But he used his tongue in a way that I think is communicates just about the same thing in a somewhat less crude way. Plus that paid off the gag at the beginning with him having that big purple tongue.
True.
And so that worked out for me. I forget who had said it earlier. Call him something else, but don't try to relate him to some existing character. As far as Jean's farewell, I've been thinking since the very first time I saw this movie, why not let just Jean hold the waters back, lift the plane up, get the plane stable, and then send Nightcrawler down to rescue her. And finally, I watched that today, and that wouldn't have worked either.
He would have died too.
There was too much little time. But Nightcrawler wouldn't have been able to get in and out the way he did with Rogue earlier, which was
that's right.
Was an amazing rescue.
The X-wing scene where the back blows up and he's able to save her and bring her back in.
Yeah, that was a pretty excellent. That was a pretty excellent moment in the film, and then of course Jean speaking through Charles to say her goodbye. That is just yet another example of Patrick Stewart's excellent acting skills. He was speaking with her tone, her accent, her cadence. It was just like Famke Janssen was there speaking with Patrick Stewart's mouth. And this is one of the most touching things. I would want to back up and on the topic of Patrick Stewart's acting, back up towards the beginning of the movie. My favorite line in the film: "I'd have Jean braid your hair."
Yes.
It's just a little touch of mischievousness in that line.
One of my
really
favorite scenes.
Logan, my tolerance for your smoking in the mansion notwithstanding, continue smoking that in here, and you'll spend the rest of your days under the belief that you're a 6-year-old girl.
You do that?
I'd have Jean braid your hair. Welcome back.
My tolerance for you smoking in the match, and if you do that, I'll give you I'll put you under the impression you're
I have it.
Real girl.
I think I have it called up here. Logan, my tolerance for your smoking in the mansion notwithstanding, continue smoking that in here, and you'll spend the rest of your days under the belief that you're a 6-year-old girl. You do that, I'd have Jean braid your hair.
I'm going to be putting that scene in this podcast. Okay, so last thing, because you brought that up, starting with Michelle, what was your favorite scene in this entire movie?
Okay. I mean, I have two. So the first one was when Nightcrawler and Mystique were talking. I think he said something about like, how come you don't just like, since you can mute or since you can shapeshift, why don't you just pretend to be them? And she said something along the lines of like, I shouldn't have to, like, we should just be accepted. Like that was a really like powerful scene for Mystique's character because yeah, I mean, yeah, like they're really extreme, but it's just to be treated. They just want to be treated like everyone else, like treated like a person. My second favorite scene is obviously when at the end you see the Phoenix Force underneath the water, knowing like that Jean Grey's story isn't over, that she's going to come back if they do a third movie.
Oh yeah, which, spoilers. Demanda, what was your favorite scene throughout this entire movie?
So definitely the end. I again was so excited at the end of the movie. And then I would say probably the Colossus, because Daniel Cudmore, if you're listening. We've already chatted on Twitter.
Your number one fans here.
Yeah. But yeah, because both of them gave me such like fanboy delight. Like it was very much like, oh my gosh, like yes, like I'm so excited for, you know, whatever it is that's gonna happen, you know, with Colossus and with that I would say those are my favorite.
Irene, what was your favorite scene throughout this entire movie?
So my favorite scenes are nowhere near as profound as Amanda and Michelle. Honestly, I really enjoy watching any scene Mystique is in because she's always changing to different people. And I think that's just so, I don't know, just interesting and like mischievous and like just seeing her transform to different people. Like, I don't know, it's something that I wish I could do, you know, especially when the scene when like she goes into the office and like is snooping around before Kelly Hu's character comes in and then she changes into that janitor. It's like so simple, but like just, and then like she walks by the janitor and the janitor is like, what's going on? Like maybe it's a very silly scene, but I just feel like anytime she gets to change to other people, it's like it always makes me perk up and I'm just like, oh, that's so cool. Who's she gonna be next? It's like, you know, that kind of adrenaline rush for me.
Bob, what was your favorite scene throughout the entire movie?
I think I spoke earlier to that about the little conversation between Storm and Nightcrawler about you know, the anger that ended with the anger and faith being the motives, and then how that kind of got paid off when she was talking him into going into the chamber and teleporting without looking first. You know, I have faith in you. That kind of really did resonate in there as just somebody trusts, you know, somebody trusts you.
I guess before we end this, my favorite scene, of course, will always be Wolverine when he's jumping from the stair rail and he's just like, you know, falling out and just stabs Zach and just yelling. It's like one of my favorite scenes of all time. Just the whole scene, the whole X-Men fight, the whole X-Mansion fight scene with him and all the soldiers is one of my favorite. Another one of my favorite scenes would have to be, as mentioned, when you know, the X-Wing, basically, you know, the back of it gets blown up and Nightcrawler just poofs out and then saves Rogue. Another real quick one is when they're doing when I think it's Storm driving the X-Wing and Pyro and Wolverine basically said, please don't do that again, and then Wolverine says, I agree. It's just the humor.
It was Iceman, I think, said don't do that again.
Please don't do that again.
I agree.
I can't remember. When I watch it for this, I'll have to do it. So okay, last but not least, starting in clockwise order, Michelle, was X-Men 2 X-Men United, was it worth making?
It was, because it was setting up the Phoenix arc.
The Dark Phoenix arc, definitely. Demanda, was X-Men 2 worth making?
So I still firmly believe that X2 is the best, or one of the best, if not the best, in the X-Men franchise. For all of its faults, that again, I'm happy to critique all of my favorite movies. It still holds up. I still enjoy it. It was definitely worth making.
Irene, same question. Was X-Men 2 X-Men United worth making?
Absolutely. There's so many great acting moments, humor. The humor was on point. I loved being on my toes with all the action scenes. I very much enjoyed this movie. So definitely worth making.
Bob, do you think this movie, X-Men 2, was it worth making?
Before I answer that, I got to talk about most of the actors that I wanted to make mention of in this, but there are two more that I'd just like to make brief trivia things about. One is Sean Ashmore, who played Iceman. He's the identical twin brother to Aaron Ashmore, who a few years later would be on Smallville playing Jimmy Olsen. And they both have had other roles, but that's an interesting Marvel DC contrast. Roger Cross plays one of the Secret Service agents in the Oval Office. I think he's the one with the line, there's somebody in the corridor, and then as Nightcrawler just jumps on the president, he's the black guy standing to the president's right. A few years later, he would be a regular for all seasons of a show called Dark Matter, and that's a show that is definitely worth checking out. It's very fun. But on the whole, I look at some really wonderful acting. Yes, there are a lot of missteps on this film. It is still relatively early in the superhero film business, and so these things can be most of them can be excused. On the whole, yes, I think it is one of the best. I think it is one of the top 3 films in the overall X-Men franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I guess me now. Yes, I do think it was worth making. It being pre, MCU, before, Disney bought the rights to Fox. I think it was a good movie. I agree, like what Amanda said, Michelle said. I feel like adding all those other comic book characters in this movie was kind of unnecessary, especially since some of them didn't really get a whole lot of screen time. It definitely, again, like I said, it definitely got us prepared for X3 Last Stand, especially with, Jean coming back as Dark Phoenix. So yeah, it's definitely worth making. And I think that's it. Again, everyone, thank you for coming on to the second podcast for the X-Men trilogy. I also want to give a shout out to Paul, known as Power of X-Men, and also Jason, known as Nerd Alert. I know they wanted to be here for this. So again, I wanted to make sure I gave them a quick shout out and all. So yeah. Again, I'm Wayne the Unknown. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Was it worth making? Until next time, thank you for watching.